Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Henry, I'm really excited and nervous to talk to you. You can't believe I'm a huge fan. And Mike's like just here to be a buffer. He already knows this is not about him, so it's fine. But let me, if you would indulge me, I want to give our audience a little bit of background information. I'm sure they know about both of you well. But first, I'm going to introduce Mike, who's the CEO of Funny or Die Studios. I love, by the way, funny, original, diverse. That's fantastic. We'll talk about that. Funny or Die Studios, I think we all remember how it started with a really brutal landlord berating Will Ferrell, which was incredible. This is the premier comedy brand known for multi-award winning content and TV, movies, digital, and more. Mike, I know you started out as a producer. I love your mission. MPTF's mission is why I'm here, but the mission of making people laugh and inspiring critical thinking and social change is phenomenal. Henry, I was listening to a podcast you did talking about kind of the spoonful of sugar element that you all bring, and that's phenomenal. I would be in my office. My office has 2 fake bamboo trees, so I'm usually between 2 bamboo trees. Maybe that's a new show. Of course, that show is phenomenal. You guys have won Peabody Awards and Billy on the Street. It's just incredible. Henry, this is quite the bio. It's probably why you are so phenomenal, and we're gonna dive into you. But Henry Muñoz III, you are a nationally respected voice in the discourse about the imprint of Latino culture and identity upon American society. Quite a mouthful. Designer, business person, social activist, opinion leader, philanthropist, which I really want to talk about. And you work across multiple platforms. And in listening to you speak, which we all do often, you have characteristics that I think are really incredible. And you talk about listening and how important it is to have a strong voice, but that voice typically comes after you listen to people for a while. Today, I'm going to ask some questions, but we're really all here to listen to both of you. I do want to thank you for joining, both of you. Mike, I'm kind of joking around, but to have you here and to see you recently, to show up at a salon event and to, just talk about wanting to do days of service. I admire you both greatly. So thank you for the honor of taking some time with me today.
Happy to be here.
I almost want to tell your residents that we're not as nice and impressive as you just made us sound, but thank you so much for the kind words.
Well, we'll let them figure that out for themselves when you come back over here.
Over time, our true nature as monsters, I'm sure, will unfold.
Yeah, great. Well, I hope I can bring out the monster in you. That would be a win for me, so that'd be fine. I want to talk a little. There's too much to talk about in this time, but let's go back. Chronology is always a good way to start an interview. Henry, I love that you say, I just thought it was fantastic. Openly gay, openly Latino, openly Texan. Like, that's just awesome. You're so proud of where you've come from. You didn't start in entertainment. I know your father. Tell us about the work that your father did and just how those early days inspired the first part of your career.
Well, I grew up in San Antonio. Both of my parents were activists and both were labor leaders. And so we were never the people who had, the new car and the swimming pool, but, we had a good education, and my parents thought that the best thing that they could do was to try and help other people. They were both highly educated, and to them, everyday heroes was where it was at. So, we go to school, and then on the weekend, we'd probably be in a picket line. And that started pretty early. I think my first memory of that was when I was about 5 or 6 years old. So that really informed the person that I would be and continue to be today. What can I do to help other people? And I've tried to bring that in every aspect of my career. My father, probably when I was about 12, said something to me that I've never gotten out of my head. He said, the movement of a people begins with the steps of just one person. And when I'm feeling down and thinking that the odds are insurmountable, I always remember his voice telling me that.
You also brought up something that I feel all the time, and I can't believe that you feel this way, and maybe you used to feel like this, but there was some interview and you kind of alluded to imposter syndrome a little bit and kind of feeling like, how am I in this room? Which to me seems fascinating to hear from you. But do you still ever feel like that and just kind of say like, wow, here I am and look at what I've been able to accomplish? Or is this just old hat now?
Oh, no, I still feel that way. Sometimes I walk in a room and I go, what am I doing here? And it's not just a room with powerful people, but a room where things are happening creatively, situations where I feel like I'm able to really lend my voice to a solution. So I still feel it all the time. And anybody who tells you that they don't, they're probably not telling you the truth.
Exactly. Mike, I want to talk about, so you grew up in Michigan, right?
Ann Arbor, Michigan, yeah.
Ann Arbor, Michigan, went to Indiana.
Yep.
Okay. And then what brought you out to LA? Like, how did you first get into the entertainment industry? Why? What was your influence there?
My senior year at Indiana, I got back from a miserable corporate finance internship in the suburbs of Chicago, which I wouldn't have wished on anyone. And I got back to a class and I saw this kid named Josh Golson, who we weren't close, but we had some classes. And I said, oh, hey, how was your summer? Like, what did you do? And he said, I was an intern in Hollywood. And my mind was just blown. I didn't even know that was a thing. And he showed me something, maybe your residents, some of them will remember the Hollywood Creative Directory. That was just that big book that had all the companies in Hollywood and their addresses and their credits and the people that work for them. Yeah. And I just read it like front to back. And I was just like, oh, if I'm reading this book of addresses, that might be a sign that this is like something I might be passionate about. And so I graduated. I went back to Michigan. I saved up money waiting tables and being a bartender. And I drove out to LA in the fall of 2001. I didn't really know anyone or anything. I did know Josh. He was out here, but I haven't seen him in 20 years. If he sees this, I hope he's doing well. And I just came out totally naive, but very excited about this place that still seems so far removed from reality that I just had to be a part of it.
Mike, what does a food expediter do?
It's not the person who brings you, it's not the person who takes the order. It's not a bus boy or a bus girl. It's literally just the girl or guy who brings you the food from the kitchen. And I was a food expediter at the Standard on Sunset for 2.5 years, working overnights and weekends. I did internships during the day, and it was an amazing experience. The Standard, which unfortunately closed a few years ago, was my first real exposure to creative folks, because everyone there was an aspiring actor or writer or director, musician. And I quickly realized that creative folks need someone to help organize their hopes and dreams, which is basically what a producer does. And so I started producing the little projects that we made out of the Standard. And so it was an unconventional path. My very first job was working security at movie premieres. And I met a kid named Sean who called himself Cowboy. And that's how I got the interviews at the Standard. I had to interview 3 times to become a food expediter. And that was like my first real taste of just the dreaming that Hollywood takes.
Just to be in that room and to be surrounded by all that energy. Bob, you're muted.
The Bear would have hired you after your first interview, I'm sure.
Oh, well.
Yeah. And recognize good food expediting when he's...
Well, I was subsequently fired from that position, but I've been fired many times. So
I'll take that back then.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Bob.
So back to you, Henry. You did not start your career, obviously, in film and TV and design and activism. And I love that you've always tried to infuse culture. You said something about our country that I don't think gets said a lot. I come from a very diverse family. I never you described how a lot of people think America is this pure and kind of separated country, and it's so far from that. We are a blended culture. We just have certain strong voices that try to deny that. And I'm glad that there's other voices speaking out. And you always do infuse that into everything that you're doing. Your culture now, being a part of Funny or Die, coming to Funny or Die in 2021 as the owner, first talk about how did you get to that part and this new avenue in your life?
Well, it goes back to that question about, do you ever feel like you're an imposter? If my life had been different, I might have moved to New York after going to school in New Orleans and become a producer on Broadway, which now I get to do. But I've never really done anything that I was educated to do. I never went to art. My background, my degree program was in communications design. I never went to architecture school, and I ended up owning and developing a language of architecture. And I worked on it for about 20 years, right? And it was all about looking around you, looking at the country, studying history, talking to people whose voices had never been heard, and finding the things that unite us as opposed to the things that divide us, and not being exclusive, but being inclusive. And I think I've been able to bring that to places like the Smithsonian Institution and the Kennedy Center and the National Park Service, places that tell stories and that are really important. And I found myself I wanted to work in healthcare because I was really affected deeply by the way that poor people, working people, the way that the healthcare system in the United States is so complex, right? And I was working with President Obama.
A nice way to put it, complex.
Difficult, complex. It's just crazy. And I was working with President Obama at the time, around the time that he was trying to explain the Affordable Care Act, and chose to sit between two ferns with Funny or Die. So in 2020, I was looking around the streets of New York. Actually, I was standing in a parking lot of Lehman College, and we were setting up testing facilities. And I thought, how are we ever going to get, our people to come and get tested? And how do we share information about what we're seeing? And that's what introduced me to Funny or Die a second time. And it was this idea that many Latino celebrities would join forces and would help honor the heroes, the healthcare heroes that were working in the streets across the country. And Eva Longoria, who I've done many things with over the course of my philanthropic, activist, and professional career, we decided to choose somebody who was really good at what they do to produce this CBS television special, and that was Funny or Die. And so at that point, I guess I figured maybe this industry that has never had many people who look like me or have my experience ought to. And that's how I found my way into entertainment. I'm so lucky that Mike and Joe and everybody at Funny or Die wanted me to do that and was very accepting.
Well, you couldn't have found a more perfect platform and company than Funny or Die, who brings joy to these topics and comedy. I know whenever I feel like an imposter or going into something big, even today, it's like, you can just laugh a little bit. It just changes the whole dynamic. And if you can laugh and talk about some serious things, then you're probably going to be okay. Henry, I want you to talk a little bit about, there was a project at University of Texas that you were involved in with the planetarium. And I thought that was really brilliant because, if I'm not mistaken, you were told possibly to get rid of this planetarium. But instead of get rid of it, you built a story and a narrative around it. Can you tell us about that project?
I think that's the importance of listening to people. So that was really at the beginning of trying to understand what in Texas they would call it mestizaje. Mm-hmm. It's just a blended architecture that encompasses the experiences of many people, and understanding the place, the context of where you're working. So my firm was asked to design a science building. And so I went down to this university in a place called Edinburgh, Texas. And in the middle of the site was this old planetarium. And when I was growing up, we used to get to go to the planetarium in San Antonio about once every other month. and study astronomy. And so I organized a conversation with people, and I found that it was the only planetarium along the entire Texas-Mexico border. So instead of demolishing it and removing that opportunity for those young people, we created a history. We began to understand that the history of the indigenous Mexican, Spanish, mestizaje of the Americas was one in which their ancestors were astronomers and mathematicians and urban planners. And so I went to the university and asked if I could save the planetarium and wrap the building around it and make the building a building that incorporated astronomy and science, and teach young people like I used to get to go to when you were in sixth grade, right? Mm-hmm. That if you stay in school, you'll get to be, a scientist. And they said, sure, as long as you raise the money to save the building. And so I did. I've never been intimidated by money or raising money. And fortunate that a man by the name of Charles Butt, who owns grocery stores in the state of Texas, saw the wisdom of keeping that asset. And now there's not just one planetarium along the Texas-Mexico border. And that university is now a tier 1 research institution. And so, that also led me to my career at the Smithsonian, the power of objects, right? The power of stories to help the next generation figure out who they are and who they can be.
Absolutely. Exactly. Blending and honoring the past while looking towards the future. It's almost like you took a similar approach. I mean, Funny or Die is this incredible production company. It's not like you had to save anything. You get to be a part of this incredible platform already. But you do bring a little bit of difference to the company, as one would expect with, new leadership. But before I get there, I want to know, what was it like when you two met? Mike, you meet Henry. What was that like? Were you excited? What was it?
It was very organic. Like Henry said, he was looking for a partner to help out with the CBS special. Mm-hmm. And in the early days of the pandemic, we had just done making a
fabulous special, by the way. Tell us the name of that special so everyone can watch it.
It was Essential Heroes, Memento Latino. On CBS, and it was just amazing folks. Eva Longoria, Pitbull, John Leguizamo, George Lopez. Really, the community came out to support it. And a few months prior to that, we had made a comedy special for NBC during the pandemic, and it was great. It was a ton of work, and truthfully, we weren't looking to do another pandemic special because it just really, takes, as you guys know, doing anything for no money and philanthropic, it becomes a full immersion process.
Yeah.
And so we really weren't looking to do another one, but then we were told about this opportunity, and of course you always take the meeting. You never say no to the meeting. And so we went into a meeting with Henry not wanting to really even to do that job if we were presented it. And within just about 3 or 4 minutes of hearing Henry speak so soulfully about why he was trying to do this, I was kind of doing that thing on Zoom where you start texting your colleagues who are on the same Zoom, and we were all just like, oh yeah, we got to do this. We got to do this. And so we did it together, and it was a fantastic collaboration. And then, we were trying to figure out the future of Funny or Die coming out of the pandemic. And Henry had kind of mentioned a few times just casually that he wanted to do more in entertainment. So one time after a Zoom with Joe Farrell, who's our chief creative officer, I think I just side texted Henry and said, oh, Henry, do you have a minute to stay on? And he did. And I said to him, I was like, if you're really serious about getting into entertainment, you should buy Funny or Die. And in his famous words, he said, I'm not intimidated by that. And 6 months later, the deal went through.
That's normal. Great. That's a normal story. Sure. You should just buy Funny or Die, Henry. So what do you think? What were your thoughts on that meeting? That's fantastic.
Well, when I first met Mike and Joe and my now colleagues, it was a love affair. I remembered why it was important to put the President of the United States between two ferns to explain a really complex moment in the country's history. I was very connected to that. We were living in the same thing. I was deeply troubled by what was happening in the country. Sometimes we forget, right? Think about the middle of the summer of 2020 and everybody being separated from each other, kind of like this conversation we're able to have today. And the need to bring people together. And yes, the need to let people laugh. We need to laugh. We need humor. And so I saw Funny or Die as very important. Truth be known, I probably was a little intimidated. I called a mentor of mine that I really trust. And he said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. But if you want to pursue this, I think you should work through it this way, which is what I did. I think people thought I would, after that election, go to work for this president. And I couldn't do that. I was committed to staying in New York City and continuing to test people and to vaccinate people. But, I believe in the importance of stories, and the thing that storytelling and telling the truth about who we are as a country and creating cultural understanding between people. I think we need more of that, and humor helps. And so, I decided that this was maybe one last great opportunity to create change and transformation. And I have to say, not just Mike and Joe and the people at Funny or Die, but the people in the industry have been very welcoming to this idea of funny, original, and diverse. And I'm enjoying it. And we're a great team. We're good collaborators.
You're a great team. I mean, I'll embarrass Mike by saying this, but Mike, the reputation that Mike has, who I got the pleasure of meeting first, is quite special. And this is a tough industry. There are some not so genuine people in this industry, but being a part of MPTF and I think my role of being, industry adjacent, being able to just support those people that you were saying, those everyday heroes. I mean, I'm on our Wasserman campus today with 250 residents who are veterans of the industry who dedicated their lives to this industry, and nurses and social workers who obviously right now we know what's going on outside of people's offices. It's a pretty tough time. Dual strikes that haven't happened since 1960. But what we're here to do is to create a safety net for those people that bring this joy to the world. And again, I'll thank you guys a million times, because what you're doing is you're doing that. And laughter is not a weakness. It's a total superpower. And I think we need more, and I'm excited for the content that you all are bringing. But I want to talk about philanthropy, because most of the time that's a learned behavior. You don't just grow up thinking, I want to give back. Obviously, Henry, you've got incredible parents who taught you. But why is philanthropy such a big part of your life and identity?
Well, I think about philanthropy. Philanthropy takes many shapes. It's kind of a very lofty word for being willing to help the person who's next to you or across the street or in your community. And I actually think there's a very interesting thing that's happening in the country today, where young people in particular who also are going through a very difficult time for themselves and for their family. They have a lot of concerns about the schools that they go to and the environment. They're organizing themselves philanthropically in informal and organic ways, many times over the internet. They're creating not just relationships, but communities. And I think that's what's important. So, for me, being a philanthropist means coming together around a common goal to try and help even one person. Or, I live on a block where, we don't have a library. And so people walk down to the end of the block and they put books in a little cubby hole for people to share. That's philanthropy. And I bet there's everyday acts of philanthropy there on the Wasserman campus. So many times we talk about it like it's this big thing. And I have been able to accomplish some big things because, as Mike said, I'm not intimidated by being in a room with people who have power. But I think many times it's just the expression of personal power in some way. And we really need that. I just think whatever it is, taking some amount of time to help somebody else. I would say, as important as my parents were, Mike and I share a Jesuit tradition. And I think I was educated to be a person for others too. And that's important also.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to say, my parents were, of course, my biggest influence on exactly what you said, Henry. It's taking those first couple steps. It's helping one person. It's throwing a stone and that ripple effect. And whether it's money or, delivering food, which that's what I grew up doing. And I have a Jesuit background as well. And it was one of the best things you get from that. My daughter, the other day, I looked outside while I was on a Zoom and she set up a table. I told her we're going to eat healthier. We're not eating chips anymore. So she went outside to sell them in support of the strike, and she made $20 and we donated it to MPTF. So I thought, what a beautiful way to spend an hour. Mike, what about you? I mean, you're such a great guy. You were just at a salon event and you really understand the importance of, again, not just making a donation, but using your voice and being an advocate. And especially in this industry, peer-to-peer advocacy is huge. I can talk to as many people as possible, but when it's your voices to your peers, it means a lot. Where does that spirit come from in you, Mike?
Well, I think for MPTF specifically, you guys make it easy because you are the ones doing the work and you do it very well. And so it's a very easy group to advocate for. And so the credit really goes to you all. I don't know even how to answer that. I think my parents, I was very fortunate to be raised by folks who kind of saw the world as all connected. My dad's an immigrant. And I think that just resonated with me. I think strongly, just as this strike is going on, I think it's so easy to forget how much we're all just in things together. Henry spoke about that earlier. So I believe strongly that we're all interconnected in such a kind of like a simple way. It's so simple, it's almost kind of easy to forget. I think I've been given a lot. So I also believe, just the old standard of to whom much is given, much is expected. Mm-hmm. And I think also the secret about, helping folks in philanthropy, whatever you want to call it, is that when you do it, you realize pretty early on that you actually get more out of it yourself than the person kind of receiving the help. And I think that's just a human thing that you wouldn't expect, but I think is just real. And I think there's lots of different ways folks might describe that feeling based on their own faith or spirituality or whatever it might be. But for me, it's something that's very clear. So you just do everything you can and I agree with Henry. Every little bit helps. It doesn't have to be a massive thing. It can be one small thing. It can be a massive thing. It can be anything in between. And so I don't give it much thought. It's not intentional. Like, oh, I got to do this. It's just, if someone asks and I can do it, I will.
It's part of who you are. I mean, that's obvious. It's in both of your, DNA. And I think philanthropy, and it's okay to say this, is a bit selfish. Exactly to your point, you end up feeling so much better than maybe the people that you've helped. And that's okay. I went to law school. I never thought I'd be in philanthropy. I'm very glad I pivoted. I'm very happy to not be practicing. But Henry, I think you spoke about that where it's just such a great thing to be able to help others, no matter how big or small it might be. And when you were talking about, I'm not worried about raising money. You need to go raise money to do something great. Let's do it, right? It's people ask me all the time, isn't that hard to always be asking for money? I'm sure you get that too. It's not, because you're helping the greater good. So what a blessing. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about work. What's some exciting things that are coming up with Funny or Die that you want to tell people about? Any projects that are not too secret you'd want to chat about?
We're really excited that along with our partner, Stephen Colbert, we're going to be producing the CBS late night show that's replacing the James Corden show.
Awesome.
Exact air date to be determined because of the ongoing strikes.
Yep.
But that's something that we're really grateful for. And it was a great team effort with Henry and Joe and the team at Spartina, that's Stephen Colbert's production company. So we're kind of reimagining a show we made for Comedy Central called At Midnight, which is a really fun, topical kind of, panel comedy show informed by the internet and digital and everything that's kind of happening in that world. It seems like Jennifer Clymer, perhaps, did you participate in hashtag wars with the original?
Points.
Exactly. That is music to our ears.
Amazing.
Oh, thanks. We're very grateful for that, especially because we were able to work together to sell that before the strike came. And so that's something that we'll be really focused on as soon as possible. And then we're also really proud of the movie Weird,
Yes, congratulations. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, so we a few weeks ago, we found out we were nominated for 8 Emmys. Which is incredible. Some of your residents, I'm sure, can relate. Weird was passed on by literally.
Yes, they are weird. Is that what you were saying, Mike?
No.
Weird.
Oh, they should be a little weird. A little weird is good.
We all are.
Absolutely. But the project Weird, not the people. It was passed on as a pitch, as a script with Daniel Radcliffe attached, literally by everyone. And then we were very fortunate, as the saying goes, it only takes one. That one was Roku. And we shot the entire movie in 18 days in Los Angeles, had an amazing cast and crew. The crew was just incredible. It was like one of those productions where it just felt different from the beginning. Everyone really wanted to be there and bring their best to give to the project. And I think you can really see that when you watch it. One of the highlights of last year that Henry and I were both at was the premiere of Weird at the Toronto Film Festival, the midnight screening, which was basically like half premiere, half like religious event revival, because people just really lost their minds. So that was something to remember. So we're very proud of Eric Appel, the writer director, along with Al Yankovic. Whitney Hodak here at Funny or Die was an amazing producer. We had some other partners at Tango. So it's just like one of those special experiences where everything we said would happen as we were pitching it actually came into fruition. And that doesn't always happen.
It absolutely not. And that MTV generation, and Henry, I think you said something about, with this film coming out, which, I missed that. You don't really have that. It's changed to different kind of platforms, but Weird came out on my birthday last year, and that was quite a fun birthday. I mean, I have his albums, like framed, actual records. Like, I love it. That was a lot of fun. And Roku, you mentioned, we should shout out our friend Brian Toombs, who used to be with Funny or Die and is with Roku on our next gen board. Love you, Bri. Okay, I have to ask, because I know you've produced a show about it. Speaking of Stephen Colbert, I'm obsessed with pickleball. Obsessed. I will get a pickleball court on our campus. Henry, do you play?
I have played. I can't say that. That's the wonderful thing about pickleball. You can kind of pick it up every so often and be pretty good at it.
Yeah. My grandfather, I'm lucky, is still alive, and he's 90 years old, and he's beat me on several occasions. I'm happy to admit that. Yeah,
and you were a D1 college athlete. That's impressive.
It is. I wasn't going easy on him too. I cannot stand to lose. I don't tend to, but yeah.
It was a great act of philanthropy because it raised money for, to help young people. And so, it was a perfect combination of talent and philanthropy and good television too.
And fun. I mean, it's a sport that lends itself to a lot of funny comments, moments, all of that. I've seen lots of funny things on the court. But Mike, do you play?
I play exclusively with my mom. So anytime I'm back in Michigan, we go out and have a very friendly, not competitive pickleball rally game. That it was actually inspired by playing with my mom. That kernel for doing a celebrity pickleball tournament was inspired by playing pickleball with my mom during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah, the pandemic was a great time to figure that out. I was watching club soccer and figured, I don't want to watch this anymore. I'm going to play this weird sport over here. And it was changed my life. Well, when we get a court out here, we'll have to have you guys both come out and play a little bit. All right, we got a little bit more time. This is so much fun, you guys. I have so many more things I'd love to talk to you. Henry, we've got to get you to come visit our campus one day. You will absolutely love it.
Well, let me take that opportunity to applaud MPTF for all of the work that it does. I mean, I think there's so many people in the world today that kind of fall through the cracks and who need a community, and you all have taken what you do and done it with excellence and with grace. And I can't say enough nice things about it. And I'm happy to be a part of your family and to support the work of MPTF.
Well, I will pass that message on. I just get to be a lucky steward of all these great people. I'm in awe every day. I didn't grow up in this industry, but to watch the safety net and how people come together and how the people we see on TV are built on the shoulders of incredible people who make this industry go around, and to watch our social workers right now. And like you guys were saying, how the younger generation is really struggling, especially right now. But we're going to be there for them for another 100 years. So it's a blessing to be a part of this family. That's for sure. Want to ask, this is not about Funny or Die or any conflict of interest, but we do ask all of our guests. I would love to know, past, present, or future. We'll start with you, Mike. It's a hard one. Favorite film of all time?
My favorite film of all time is The Shawshank Redemption.
Me too. Oh, Mike, I'm right there with you, buddy. All right. Love it. Henry, what about you?
Oh God! You know, the only person who's ever intimidated me is Barbara Streisand, and the film Funny Girl is such an important part of my upbringing. First of all, because I love musicals, right? Yeah. Second of all, because it tells a story of an ugly duckling, an outsider who becomes something greater than she even imagined that she could be at the beginning. But mostly because my mom, when I tried to come out to my mom. When I was a young man, she said, "Oh, don't worry, mijo. I knew you were gay when you walked out of Funny Girl singing." And I chased Sonia Friedman, who's the great theatrical producer around, for months to convince her that I should be a producer of Funny Girl's revival on Broadway. And I succeeded in doing that. So it's that, you know, I've got a lot of favorite films, but that film is really meaningful to me.
Wow. Well, that's far better of a story than yours, Mike, but that was still a great answer that you gave. That's fantastic. I also wanted to bring up, just because it's public, if it's okay, I've officiated a couple weddings. My brothers and I, we did it for each other, and we all got married in 1 year. You had someone officiate your wedding, Henry. Who was that?
The President of the United States.
Oh, right. Same. Gotcha. Okay.
No,
you leveled up on that one.
I was working with both President Obama and Vice President Biden, and the Vice President was a great colleague to work on issues in the LGBTQ community. In fact, I think I may be the only person who's ever taken the President of the United States to a gay bar, but I have, and it's called Stonewall. And it came at a really important time when we were, fighting for the first national monument dedicated to the LGBTQ community. When we were working on that, we used to push on the president to speak openly about marriage equality. And so the vice president just decided that he was going to speak and say, I'm in favor of marriage equality. So on the day that that ruling came down from the Supreme Court of the United States. I got a call and I didn't really know, okay, do I answer it or not answer it? I was standing on the front steps of the Supreme Court with all of my interns. And I went ahead and took it and they said, sir, the vice president would like to talk to you. They said, well, you never had to move me towards marriage equality, did you, Henry? And I said, no, sir, I never did. And he told me a really beautiful story about when he was growing up, about these two men that he would see on a train platform in his hometown, and him asking his father, very Catholic background, what is that? And he said, it's just love, son. And so, it was about the time I was getting serious with Kyle. And I said, well, sir, if I ever get married, you'll have to marry me. And he said, of course I'm going to. And he did.
Oh my gosh, what a surreal moment. That's a great photo for your album. That's for sure. Well, and when you come out to West Hollywood, I'll take you to Revolver. We'll have a lot of fun. We'll go to a great bar together.
I'll go.
It's awesome. You guys are just, this is really special. Again, I can't wait to get you more involved with MPTF. Jen, please interrupt this incredible conversation.
I just want to augment, not interrupt. I'm so grateful for the time, certainly for you guys to be on the air with us. Courtney teed up one of the two questions that we ask everybody, and that's, what's your favorite movie? The other question, because we are the Motion Picture and Television Fund, is what's your favorite TV series?
Henry, you want to go first?
Well, of all time?
Of all time.
Oh my God.
And
I know.
You can change your answer tomorrow. It's not.
The Carol Burnett Show, one of the great comedy television series of all times, that had all of these guest stars who came on that show and let go of who they were and put their ego aside and made fun of themselves and what was happening in popular culture. I really, that's an aspiration for me for Funny or Die and Funny Original Diverse. If this new show that we're producing on CBS, which by the way, is going to be a very diverse show in front of the camera and behind the camera, historic, I predict, then if we're able to accomplish any of that comic genius that Carol Burnett and her colleagues did, I'll be so incredibly happy and feel like I made some contribution to motion pictures and to television.
Do you know, or do you have an idea where that may film in Hollywood? Because if it's in like Television City, what, you're laughing already.
I'm going to leave that up to Mike to answer. I think they've been scouting locations now.
Jen will offline with you, Mike. I'm sure she's got some ideas for you.
I love the Carol Burnett Show, and we were talking about this the other day. One of the fundraising events that we did a while ago, we have a clip of it on our YouTube page, and it's Tim Conway and Harvey Korman doing the Speedy Travel. And classic. And they performed it live on stage for a handful of people at this fundraiser. And we were given permission to put it out there for the world to see again. And it's so funny. So funny. All right. So, Henry, I imagine that you're not going to go the comedy route. I picture your favorite TV series as like 6 Feet Under. Or am I wrong?
Mike.
For Henry or for Mike? Henry.
Oh, sorry, Henry. I meant for Mike.
My answer is Seinfeld. Because I think when you ask questions like that, it's always, I think, so much informed by the timing of when you see something. And for me, when that show came out when I was, 10 or 11, you just had never seen a comedy language like that, kind of on a broadcast kind of scale. And so it really helped shape my sensibility at obviously a point where, you could be easily influenced when you're that age. So there are other shows I probably resonate with just as much now, just because I'm much older. But that's the first one that comes to mind because it hits different, when you're 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me hop in and augment. I'm going to step away, but it has been such a joy to share the screen with the two of you and have the residents get to meet you via Creative Chaos.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jen. Henry, I'm going to ask just one more question before we leave here. Not anything political, but obviously this is a tough time right now for so many people. But you are such a person who not only infuses joy, but hope and courage. So if anyone out there who ends up seeing this, is kind of struggling in this industry, but has made a choice to do this, what would you say to them?
I think raise your voice. I got to tell you, I'm kind of an old person, and I've been around the block a few times, and I've got a lot of years on my body. But I've really been impressed by the willingness of people in this industry to mentor me and to help me and to educate me and to work with me. And so I think that there is a lot of people out there in a difficult industry at a very tenuous time who want to meet people and to help them and who admire talent. And so I'd say, don't get, I wouldn't be anywhere. I mean, I've never done anything without other people. And most of the time, people just want you to ask for them for the help. It's so important to ask for help. I do it almost every day. And I'm very seldom disappointed in the willingness of people to be there for you. And so if I were a young person starting in this industry right now, even with all of, the things that are, look at the powerful voice of, even in this difficult moment with these strikes, of people who are raising their voices for what they believe is right, and something good will come of it. And so I think believe in people, believe in the industry, and go ahead and put yourself out there. You won't be disappointed.
I think that's a beautiful message. I don't know if we can top that. Bob, I know you're here. Did you want to ask before we leave?
No. Just wanted to thank you guys again. Really enjoyed the job, the interview. Courtney, great job. Love getting to know both of you better. Henry, we had a nice conversation a few months ago. I'm just so overwhelmed by your grace and graciousness and your creativity and your commitment to helping other people. And like, same true for you. We're blessed to have you in the MPTF family and look forward to getting to know you better and, getting you more involved in however you want to be and however you have time to be. And Henry, the help thing that you just spoke about, I'll just put a little gloss on it, which is, at the moment, there are so many industry members who in need of help, desperate financial condition. We have the opportunity, thanks to the generosity of the IA, the Teamsters, DJ, and others, to provide that help, financial help, and then whatever other, mental health support, all of those things. We need people to step up and ask for it because so many people live in shame, have shame about, asking ordinary questions, or in this case, asking an extraordinary question. I'm sinking, and I need a life support here. Please help me. So,
yeah. And Bob, to that point, both Mike, I know you do this, and Henry, tell people in your company, tell people on the sets that, it's a shocker to Bob and I all the time that, this organization can exist for over 100 years. And there's many people that still don't know these resources are here. So please go forth and tell people to call on us.
I think that's
Bob's point. Yeah.
I think that's important. I think that what you do is important. And I wouldn't discount, I mean, we never like to think about ourselves, the culture of not asking for help, right? That's not a good thing. I've never quit working in healthcare. And this moment that we're in where people really do need the help and they're afraid to ask for it, it's real. And what you all provide is so important. So if you need us, if you need Funny or Die to help you in some way, we're going to be there with you in the best way that we know how, even if it's just making people laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Well, we'll follow up on that. That's for sure. I like ending it on that way because I will be asking for help. I've already talked to Mike. We've got some maybe ideas and fun things in the work. And Mike, you've just been, as well as Henry, so gracious with your time and your heart.
Yeah.
We love you guys. I can't wait to hug you both in person.
Henry, one thing that I'll add before we leave, you are so fortunate to have such an amazing representative of you and your philanthropy and your imagination and goals in Mike. I mean, that's and I think you know that, you obviously do from what you've said, but it doesn't always work out that way, and it's a great combination, great pairing. So
What my mom used to say is, when I hint that he's a good person.
yes, exactly.
Wow. All right, you all. Well, thank you so much. To be continued.